Now, after fierce competition in the general election, he was sworn in as Kenya's 5th president on September 13, 2022. From unprecedented anti-finance bill 2024, protests and subsequently dissolution of the entire cabinet to what is now called the broad-based government. These last 2 years have been nothing but high-octane politics on display. But how could all the euphoria and optimism of the hustler movement turn so sour? Mike Kagwongo tells us more.
President William Ruto came to office 2 years ago on the platform of providing work for millions of young people without jobs and putting the needs of low-income earners first, the vaunted bottom-up economic agenda. Since then, many are unclear over how much of his promises have been fulfilled. The rising cost of living and some of the Kenya Kwanza administration's economic policies caused serious political unrest. Arguably, the administration is still reeling from the recent nationwide youth-led protest that compelled the president to dissolve the cabinet and integrate opposition politicians into a new broad-based government.
To express my appreciation for their commitment and reiterate my pledge to engage alongside them in a national conversation that is inclusive, citizen-centered.
Warrior.
In 2022, one-time Ruto allies Raila Odinga, backed by former President Uhuru Kenyatta, faced up against the then Deputy President William Ruto. 2 years down the line, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has accused his own government, led by President William Ruto, of using state security agencies to harass and intimidate him in efforts to silence him and his allies.
My boss, President William Ruto, is exposed that he has to back down and admit that he has hurt the people of Kenya. Yet this matter has been in public domain for the last 2 months.
The second in command is also on record, highlighting how a government, once a darling to its people, has become unpopular following unrealistic decisions made by top officials.
So the deputy president somehow has learned that politics is never a game of partnership. Politics is never a game of trust. Politics is a game of competing ideas and numbers. I'm glad that the deputy president now is speaking the way he is speaking. I'm glad that he has realized that the ground is not interested in who is praising who. The ground is interested in the fulfillment of the promises they made.
Gashagua's allegations of attempts to silence him mirrors Ruto's own fallout with former President Uhuru Kenyatta in 2018 and appears to be the final nail in the coffin of what looks like a premature separation of Kenya's top political duo.
President Uhuru had the same problem until he realized when it was too late. Politicians need to differentiate politics and governance. There are two things here: politics and governance. Politics delivers the political seat, but politics cannot govern.
Outspoken Githongori MP Gathoni wa Mushoba says she started opposing Kenya Kwanza government policies after realizing that they were insensitive to the plight of her voters. The MP stated that she cannot stand by while harsh policies are thrust upon Kenyans because of her upbringing and her desire to give back to society.
I cannot sit pretty when I see you making a law that is going to oppress my investors, that is going to oppress my farmers, that is going to oppress my producers, that is going to oppress my businessmen. And that is what those two finance bills, 2023 and 2024, were up to.
So you can see this is actually happening. This is actually happening. But if you had gone maybe the political way, forming committees and what have you, you will end up with candles.
By accepting to join Kenya Kwanza government, Majority Whip Silvana Sosora says the opposition led by Raila Odinga had no option but to work with what he terms as Popular's government, despite challenges bedeviling President William Ruto.
You only rate the popularity of a party or administration or a government in comparison with the other. If we were not popular as a government, then ODM wouldn't have wished to join us. So they've actually joined us because, I mean, where would they go?
In a new financial reporting strategy aimed at lowering the cost of foreign borrowing, Kenya has set a 3-year timeline for entirely transitioning its government's financial activities to a build-up foundation of accounting.
It can only take a miracle for one to do all those things at once. So the priorities had to be chosen on a scale of 1 to 5, and the debts took the scale 1. So now we are done with 1, we are done with 2, we're going to 3.
On the other hand, government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura says Ruto's administration is still pursuing its bottom-up economic model goal of raising the living standards of the poor.
We carry ourselves with the people, because when government takes between 12 to 36 months to settle, you know, you are coming, you have already displaced your competitors. They were the ones in the echelons of leadership. You see, the Hustler Nation was really a movement of people who were actually trying to make it, you know, and had good ideas of transforming this nation, rather than the seasoned, you know, kind of, not very, progressive people that we wanted to remove from power.
It is not a major concern to have stalled projects. It is normal. As I said earlier, the Kenya Kwanza administration, when the Kenya Kwanza administration took over power, we had challenges of debts, external debts that had been defaulted, that the previous government had defaulted for some time, and they were actually meeting their elastic limit. So what we did, instead of putting or digging this hole deeper, we decided to use the revenues that were being collected to pay the external debts. Now that has been mitigated upon.
Even so, the record of this appears unconvincing to many. For example, 19 county aggregation industrial parks were to be built nationwide by the government. 2 years later, none of them had been completed.
You know what, Mike, is a co-funding issue. Half the amount of money is from the national government, half the amount of money is from the county government. And so therefore, my brother, the finance bill failed, despite it having very good proposals. So I really want to say that we have to do something about it.
The question on whether the opposition lieutenants who joined President William Ruto's administration will help government improve the cost of living and create job opportunities amongst the youth during the 3 years remaining time will only be answered by time. Mike Kagwango, TV 47, Nairobi.